I can remember them talking in kindergarten about, she's gripping the pencil great and she was starting to write her name. But probably first grade was when, into kindergarten, first grade, a lot of talk about her hyperactivity. I remember her kindergarten teacher saying, like, I've never seen anything like it. Her attention span is less than 3 seconds. And I was like, oh, I know. I don't know how you guys are teaching her at all. And then we had the pandemic in there. She's in kindergarten. I had to try and do it at home over Zoom. And I remember thinking, like, she can't hold any of this.
It made me feel like such a failure. I'm like, what the hell am I doing wrong? So hard.
And especially with the COVID, I remember just thinking, like, you must have literally no patience with kids. So I'm just like, she's a little hyper. These teachers teach these kids. We're seeing some more behavioral things starting to come up.
She have a one-on-one aid?
She just got a one-on-one aid last year, which
Wow.
is a whole other bag of
Crazy.
problems.
Hunter has had an aid since kindergarten.
And she's
Yeah.
had an IEP with all the needs. Nobody had ever suggested an aid. She was in kindergarten, grade, second grade. She was in here. We would go into a typical classroom for part of the day. And the other part of the day, she would go into an intervention classroom. It's like a special ed teacher, but they're called intervention specialists. That seemed to work. She'd go into that other classroom with maybe 6 or 8 other kids that had some sort of developmental disability. They had a sensory room. I can remember her having these big meltdowns. That's starting, around the end of first grade, second grade,
Yeah.
where she would just have these huge emotional outbursts of screaming and crying. And they had a sensory room. And so she would go in there. Don't give her five. She does it at home. Go up to her room. She'll scream. She'll cry because we told her no or something, I said, and then she'll come out and she'll say, I okay. I sorry. Seemed to work. As time progressed, wasn't working. Home, as time progressed, I think it was about second grade. So it would have been like 2021. 21, I think, is when TikTok became a thing because of the pandemic. Finally got on it. And Carrie Fowler and Hayden is who I saw first. Oh. Hayden's a year or so younger than Scarlett. So when I first saw her, Hayden was still walking, but not. She was starting to lose her mobility. She reminded me of Scarlett. Scarlett reminded me of her. Scarlett doesn't have the typical, she doesn't have the super like thick eyebrows or any of that, which Hayden does, but there was just something with Hayden. Remember, I would watch her videos and I would just have this horrible, that just horrible feeling like, oh my God, what if she has this? I would obsessively watch them and I would tell my husband and he was like, no. It took me a good year because we didn't see a ton of regression. It wasn't really apparent. And by this time she's now in second grade, third grade. Behaviorally, things are getting worse. Looking back and see it now in the moment, I didn't see it as regression. I just thought these behaviors are getting in the way. These behaviors are getting in the way.
Behavioral or whatever kind of mask the aggression.
Yeah. Because now we're just focusing on trying to get her to not have these big. And, we went to developmental peds. We talked to them. They wanted to try all these meds. We tried Vyvanse. We tried Ritalin. We tried Strattera. They either made her more mad, more angry. One of them kept her up. She was up till 3 a.m. just yapping. I was like, oh, dear God, no. Yeah. Strattera was a non-stimulant. It didn't do anything. So I was like, well, I'm not going to keep giving her something that's doing nothing for her. None of it worked. School, they're trying weighted vests and weighted wrist things just to get her to sit still. I was doing private speech, private PT, private OT. Yeah. But in the back of my mind, I know about it. I know about Carrie. I've heard of it now. I'd go back for genetic testing when she was younger. Had us tested for this P10. Oh, P10. Yeah. And she didn't have it. But that was it. That was it. Developmental pediatricians, they all were like, I guess she doesn't really fit autism. Like, she holds eye contact. She's pretty social. I'm like, but she has to be. Like, she has to be autistic. What else is this? What else is this? She's super hyperactive. She can't focus. And she was lining up all of her Barbie dolls. They had to be in this certain line. So I was like, this is autism. It's a spectrum. She's just somewhere on the spectrum where she's still social. Because what else would it be? And so, like I said, I started seeing Carrie stuff, and it took me probably a good year to finally say, I can't shut up about this anymore and hold it in. I need to say something because my anxiety was so high, thinking she had this. And so it was in 22, beginning of 22, that I took it to our regular pediatrician and I said, listen, I'm crazy.
Yeah.
I saw TikToks. I'm terrified that Scarlett has this. And I tell her, Sanfilippo, I said, they're called childhood Alzheimer's. She's never heard of it. Never, she said, literally never heard it ever in her life, in her career. She sits there right in the office and Googles it, goes down all the symptomatic stuff. And she was like, yeah, like let's go back to genetics. I'm going to refer you back to Cincinnati Children's Genetics. Talk to them, see what they think. Go to that appointment. They all walk in, they look at her. She doesn't have this. I can see why you think so. I can see why you would think that. And I remember them just fullness of her lips, them just continually saying, but they were like,
The expression of certainty about something that they ended up being wrong about. Don't say if you didn't end up knowing.
I'm sitting there thinking, like, oh, thank God. Oh, thank God. She doesn't have it. She doesn't have it. They know. They know.
I've had that too in doctor world. Sometimes there's no thought to be like, you know what? I don't know what the hell's going on here. Send you there. If that doesn't work, we're going to go there. But instead, it's like, no. You're good.
You're not, it's not that.
So let's wait a few more years before you figure this out. We'll just make your life a little more miserable.
At this point, she was 8. So I'm like, what is it? Because she is getting worse. Yeah. She's not getting better. So they tell me this, but I said, I still want to test. I still want you to test her for it. I need to know 100% she doesn't have this. And they're like, we'll still test her for it. We're going to do a huge panel of testing. Okay, great. Let's do that. So of course they're like, I'm sure we're going to have to fight with your insurance, da. Well, it ends up taking like 6 months. They screwed up the insurance. They kind of dropped the ball. By this point, we moved to Buffalo.
No way.
Now we're in Buffalo.
Jeez, this is a disaster.
It's been like another 3 or 4 months that we should have already had these results. And I remember calling and they're like, anywho. So I'm always waiting to get these results. It was a Friday. I don't know why, maybe because I don't want to remember. It was in March. It was like mid-March of 23. It is a Friday. And I get a notification in my email that our My Chart at Children's has a test result. And I get in there and it's the results. Trying to navigate through these. I knew it's very hard to read and understand and know for 100%, but I knew it's Friday. Nobody called. Nobody can call. Nobody's going to call all weekend. I'm going to sit on this all weekend and have no answer. Yeah. And that's what happened. And then on Monday, the genetic counselor called me. Love her. She works with a lot of our families that go to Cincinnati Children's with Sanfilippo. She's wonderful. And she was so apologetic. She was like, I was off. It wasn't supposed to post to My Chart until we called you, but it did. And I was like, listen, it is what it is. It doesn't change the results. Tell me what the results are, because I think I know, but I really need you to tell me, and I'm hoping I'm wrong. And she said, I am shocked. She said, I would have bet money that she did not have it, but she does. And she said, a mother's instinct, man. Talk about, you knew, you brought this to us, and I would have swore she didn't have it. It was just the whole range of emotions of like, son of a bitch, she really has this. That's the first thing.